Hey guys, jumping into this video in just a minute, but I wanted to add this intro prior to the rest of the video running, having to do with the fact that the upcoming Harvest event is going to have a special building, the Harvest Squirrel Hall, that will issue a percentage possibility, depending on the level of the building, that you could get a fragment of a mass self-aid kit, but that we're talking like one fragment per production if it hits. So really what this video is addressing is not so much one-off buildings that either exist or are forthcoming that give you pieces over maybe days or weeks of a single mass self-aid kit, which takes 30 fragments. This video is to specifically instruct you on how to get one mass self-aid kit guaranteed every day in your city, which is really going forward what I've needed to do in order to play the game properly, and what many others are finding as well. So anyway, I hope that helps. Hey guys, this is Bond Free from L World, and this is FOE Advance, where we're looking to advance our gameplay through some micro strategies in a podcast commentated format. So if you're willing to just kind of listen and watch and go through some things that I'm talking about, you're in the right place. So posted a video yesterday actually, and one of the comments I got was, hey, I'm pretty new to the game and we're talking about mass self-aid kits and how important they have become, because before there were fragments in this game and power creep and a lot of 1x1 buildings, which there are now, or 2x2s, things like that. I actually mentioned in that video how many objects I'm now dealing with in my city when I go to do a self-aid, and how the number of objects in my city far outstrips what your friends can do, with friends in the low hundreds, for example. Yet if I were to just show you right now, if I were to apply a mouse self-aid kit, I'm going to need a lot ASDF. Oh yes, let's try that. We need, to polish, motivate 581 buildings. So I'm just supplementing the word objects for buildings. So this far outstrips what this game used to have in a city. Maybe it was a couple of hundred objects, and for the most part, I remember a time when we could, motivate and polish our entire friends list and have ample motivation and polishing, and that is no longer the case. Not only have land tiles been added over the years as the ages have been added, we have cities far larger than they used to be, and now we just have a buttload of these like really small things like hidden goods and just all sorts of things. In my case, Granny's or Apple, and every single one of these actually has a priority order built into it in the game, whereas some of the things you really might want to see motivated or polished on a priority basis, they're just not going to be as high up on the the non-random pecking order that the game assigns to each of these components or objects in the city. I don't know if you've noticed, but one of the things I came across is that it seems like one of the last things to get motivated in my city are some of the most needed items that I need, polishing motivation on. So at the end of the day, I end up having to use a mass self-aid kit every single day. And if you're at the point in the game where you joined at a time where you didn't have a pathway to understand how to get the mouse self-aid kits, it's like, how do you get these things? And how do you get them on a consistent basis? How do I have 163 of them, yet I use them every day? So I wanted to take this time in the video to talk about how I got there and what you want to be looking for as the winter event is upcoming. Not quite yet. We're still not there for 2024, but we'll get there. And there are meager ways to get mass self-aid kits in the game on less of a consistent basis. But I wanted to show you the rather circuitous pathway to get to the point of how you get these things, how you get your city making mass self-aid kits on an everyday basis. And it's not just as simple as putting one building down. It's more a matter of going through a process to put one type of building down, which I'm going to talk about now, which is this. And it could be the chocolatory or the chocolatory or, the chocolatory. So I don't know, however you want to pronounce this thing. It eventually becomes another version of itself when it's fully upgraded, such as Ketabo Candy Delights, Ted's Blissful Chalk. That's probably the most straightforward American version of anything I can see in this building. But anyway, I'll digress on that. What you can do with this building is you're going to be looking. So what I did was a push when it came to the winter event last year. It was just obvious, painfully obvious, I was going to start running low on mass self-aid kits. And this just sort of came around for me about a year ago this time, when this kind of creep started happening, and it seems like it's been forever now, but it really hasn't been. I mean, it's just been an explosion of these fragment type buildings. And not only that, buildings that you get these pieces of, and then you build them, and then they spawn these other things, and then those things spawn other things, and then you end up with things like cider gardens, or in this case, joyful nutcracker guardhouses, or just regular nutcracker guardhouses. So we're going to get a little bit into math, and you can confirm this. There's been some great comments on my video from yesterday related to the 6,000 FP collection in one day, where I was just talking about one particular strategy you can use to drop one or more forgotten temples in your city, and just have a bulkier FP selection every day if you want to compress your finished special productions and things like that. But anyway, that aside, somebody did ask that legit question: how do I get these mass self-aid kits so that I can benefit from this? So when the winter event comes around, you're going to want to be paying attention to get the chocolatory components, okay? And what you want to do is be able to at least get a chocolatory to level 8. And that's where you then are able to at least start collecting one fragment of a nutcracker guardhouse per collection. Okay, it gets better as you level up. If you can get it to level 10. By the way, this is I think this is the most confusing game game. Well, this is a very confusing game, but the most confusing building by nomenclature of how the upgrades work. And I ran into some really weird stuff where I ended up spending a lot of extra dimes because I wasn't clear prior to now that I only needed an upgrade kit to go from level 10 to the Ketabo. And then you need like a silver to go to Ted's Chalk, and then a gold to go to either a Ted's Blissful or a Ketabo Candy. Now, each of these top level gold versions of the building have their own attributes. However, they're similar in the sense of what we're talking about, which is the Nutcracker Guardhouse. So I would say to go to the wiki for the chocolatory, the Forge of Empires fandom, and look at these different levels. And if you're really going for this to be able to create mass self-aid kits every day, you're going to need at least 15 total, quantity 15 nutcracker guardhouses planted in your city, or you're going to need 10 level 2 fragments that, anyway, not fragments, but 10 level 2 guardhouses in your city that, of course, are spawned from all these fragments you're going to collect. So what I would say to do is to get to Ted's Chalk as fast as you can. Let me check if Ketabo. So Ketabo does 2 when it's polished. It does 2 and then 1. Okay, so level 10 it also does 2 and 1. Level 9 it does 1 only. So really, if you can get to level 10 at least, if you're just focused on getting these guard houses, it's definitely it's the biggest upside of having this building so that you can get these guard houses. Now, once you have them, then of course these guard houses will guaranteed every day create a certain number of fragments in order to, these buildings will create a certain number of fragments to get the guard houses, and then the guard houses will create the fragments you need in order to get the mass self-aid kits. So, sorry, it's a little bit much, but say you have a regular guard house, you're going to get 2 fragments of mass self-aid kits every day. You need 30 fragments in order to build a mass self-aid kit. So that makes sense. If you're going to have 15 level 1s, you're going to get 30 fragments. You're going to spawn 1 full mass self-aid kit per day. Now, if you go to the upgraded one, which is the Joyful Nutcracker Guard House, then you are going to be making 3 fragments of mass self-aid kits every day. Therefore, you would need 10 of these. So it's up to you how you kind of want to deploy this and how many of these you think you can build based on what you have. But the key is to get enough of these in your city that you are making, however you get there, 30 fragments a day per collection of the mass self-aid kit, which will then in turn create a full version of a mass self-aid kit. Which, so if you look at right now, I've got a fragment going. See here, you need 30 fragments in order to make 1 full kit. So that's really the baseline that you need. Unfortunately, the guard houses need a road, whether they're level 1 or level 2. So that's something you need to consider, since it seems like non-road buildings are becoming much more of a thing than they used to be. But for now, this is the current best information I can provide. There may be other versions of things coming out and other ways to get mass self-aid kits, because I'm quite certain NO is aware of the fact that mass self-aid kits are very constrained unless you just happened to know what was going on, to get to this point, and you were playing the game at that point and you knew what to do to get here. So again, you have a chance to do this once we get into the seasonal event, especially, as it relates to winter. There's other benefits of the winter event, and I would very much encourage you to look ahead at various events on the wiki to where you can see, hey, this is what's coming up. This is going to be the big building, and then there's going to be others. In this case, because the chocolatory has been around a while, there may be yet another upgrade to it offered. I don't know. Most likely there will be a much shinier version of a different building offered this year that has nothing to do with the chocolatory, but no doubt this variants and pieces of this building or fragments and upgrades and things like that will be offered, so that you can certainly get to the point of being able to build these Nutcracker guard houses. Sorry if this is a little bit, it feels like I'm in a spiral of just inductive speech, like trying to figure out, or explain to you guys how to get these things, because it's a bit of a hassle. I mean, to figure all this stuff out. It was very similar to what I ran into with the Vibrant Autumn Vineyards in order to get, the ability to make these cider gardens, because the autumn vineyards then in turn make fragments of either a Granny's or apple tree or the dragon thing. God, I have them everywhere. I can't even believe I can't find it right now. This thing, nope, that's a golden bell. Shroom thrones. So the shroom thrones, half the time these Vibrant Autumn Vineyards will spawn fragments for shroom thrones, and the other half will be for Granny's apple tree. And the shroom thrones make the jumping pumpkins, which are a thing I love and hate at the same time for various reasons I've addressed in other videos. And then the Granny's trees, they create fragments of cider gardens, which are great, but I'm having to rip them out now in order to put higher value buildings in, such as, for example, an eco sanctum, and other things. So I just have to do the math on some of that, and just as an idea, I use stats in my from the plugin for FOE Helper, and I look at building efficiency, and I'm going to get into this in other videos. Whereas depending on how I want to set my balances, like say I'm just looking at attack and defense for a building, I have to also think about, though, does a building, if it's valuable to me, I can't now just look at attack and defense, or maybe even all four of these factors. I have to look at, well, does it provide population? And maybe I run a query, and get a result on, things that give me this and population, or maybe I just purely look at population only buildings so that I can look at those top to bottom with that layer of things, forget everything else, and just see what's the most valuable to me, right? And when I do that, I can say, okay, my most efficient buildings that provide population are, the Orchard of Orange Dreams, and then so on, and it steps down from there. So I can look at the value of these things. Now, what's interesting, say, about the guardhouses is that, aside from the fact that they give you fragments of self-aid kits, they're relatively worthless. I mean, the ROI based on taking up 4 squares in your city footprint, the attack and defense is just kind of like a extra, like, okay, thanks, that's cool, but really I'm after the fragments. But the thing is, there's all these other buildings taking up space that also provide these valuable fragments, and we have to take that in when we look at the value of what we keep in our city. So to that point, where I was going with that is that you'll see, in my case, there's no more chocolatories or ketabos or blissfuls, because I've stored them. And the reason I've stored them is their efficiency is fairly poor for this footprint of that building, but they did their job for me. They gave me enough fragments over the season to build, every nutcracker guardhouse I needed forever at this point, at least until, things shift again, and I could just put those away. Did I sell them? No, but they're there if I need them, right? So I can just, go in there and look and see, okay, I've got a ketabo here, and I can just use that anytime I need. And you can see, if you're looking at the screen, like, it's got pretty okay stats. I mean, but it doesn't give me population. Thankfully, it doesn't take population. But again, I'm after those fragments of the guardhouses. So these went away after a while. 4x6 building, I think I had like 3 of them, or 3 versions of it in the city. So that gives you an idea now of what you're looking for to get these mass self-aid kits. It's as some of you poignantly put in my comments, you've outlined this exact formula. I've taken a much longer approach to show the steps. Thank you for posting that, both the question and the answers. But now you can see kind of how it lays out based on the video format. And keep the comments coming. They've been great. Including corrections. Like, if sometimes I misspeak or I miss something, I appreciate that you guys just add in things in the comments, because you're actually watching and listening to the videos. I welcome that, because I'm not the one who makes this game. I'm just trying to get through it the best way I can and help others along the way. So that's what I got for today. Thanks for watching, and again, keep the comments coming, the questions, and we'll talk soon. Take care.